All right. Well, good morning, Minnesota. I am coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia today. And I'm here with my grandchildren and loving every minute of it. So we've celebrated a seventh birthday here, and the celebration just keeps continuing because the gifts keep coming in the mail, which is so much fun. Anyway, I'm Russell Frankel. With me today is Leslie Blicker. We are, as you well know, co-facilitating this affinity group meeting involving Minnesota State faculty and administration, system office folks, and adult education practitioners, both instructors and administrators. We love it. We love this opportunity to come together. And today we have some sort of ambitious plans. We have a couple of people here who are going to present their local partnership. One of them is Katie Ferrell, who's with Austin Adult Education, and she'll be speaking about the partnership that she is involved with Riverland Community College. And then, of course, we have Patrick Hobot, and Patrick is an adult education supervisor with Metro North, and the partnerships they're involved with are with Anoka Ramsey Community College and Anoka Technical College. When you get a moment, just simply introduce yourself, if you will, your name, first, last name, your role, and your organization in chat. And we're going to get started. I'm going to hand this right off to Leslie Blicker, and Leslie is going to provide an update regarding our recent meeting with Anthony Miller, Minnesota State System Office, and it's that P20 division. So, Leslie, come on down.
Isn't that what they do? Clap, clap,
yeah,
clap.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, so excited. Okay. Yeah, good morning, everyone. It's good to see some familiar faces. And as people come in, yesterday, I believe we forgot to ask, is there anyone new here today? Is this for your first time? As I looked at the participant list, I wasn't sure. Russ, why don't you make note if there is? Let's see. Or I'll
I've
look at
never
the
been here
chat.
before, so
And
my name's
Rob, do you want to just introduce yourself quickly?
okay. Yeah, I work at Hennepin Tech, and I just got this link the other day, and so I decided to attend. I'm a math tutor and math instructor at Hennepin Tech.
Great, great. And just quickly, are you involved in any Co-Req classes?
Not yet, nope.
Not yet. Okay, well, welcome. It's good to have you. And we always welcome folks from Minnesota State. This is an affinity group about the partnerships between ABE and the colleges, Minnesota State colleges and universities. And, the way that the partnership can enrich and enhance the student success, especially when former DevEd students will be now going into college level courses. So welcome everybody. Okay, well, we'll get started on the update. Yeah. So before each meeting, well, let me back up a minute. As when Minnesota State moved into the Co-Req, format planning, right, for DevEd to eliminate the standalone DevEd courses. We've been working with this group. We pivoted very quickly from working on DevEd ABE partnerships to following what was going to be happening with regard to the planning, what the structure at Minnesota State was going to be. And we've been bringing those reports to this group ever since. And we do follow conversations. We actually set up meetings with Anthony Miller, usually preceding each one of these affinity group meetings, so that we can hear the latest. And as many of you know, they created a 3-phase project roadmap. And the first phase was to set up 4 faculty, I think it was 4, English, math, reading, write, maybe it was 3. Matt, correct me. Chat. I love having Matt here. many of you know I used to work at Minnesota State, and Matt and I worked together on different councils for, gosh, 15, 18 years, something like that. Anyway, there were these faculty groups that went to town to try to come up with some common parameters for how the Co-Req courses might work. For example, would it be the same teacher teaching the Co-Req portion of the course and the credit level of the course? They, wanted to ask questions. How are we not replicating the same issues, only in a different format? So they did that. The faculty groups definitely came up with some parameters. And then those parameters were circulated throughout the system, staff and faculty, and feedback was given to the faculty work groups, who were able to tweak their recommendations, which then went to the Minnesota State DevEd Steering Committee. And that steering committee started work all last year and still exists, working and discussing on the Co-Req movement and perhaps other things as well. But we've been trying to follow what their status is as well. And so we learned from Anthony that the steering committee, in fact, reviewed everything, and then they forwarded those recommendations to the Academic Affairs Council, the next level above the steering committee. And they are expected to talk about it very soon. Matt Dempsey is on that, and when I'm done talking here, I'll ask him to add anything that perhaps, we missed, or that maybe Anthony didn't relay to us in our 30-minute meeting with him. It's possible they could send it back to the steering committee. But if not, either way, once it clears the steering committee, then it goes up to higher channels all the way up, probably to the Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs, and I'm assuming to the Chancellor as well. They had hoped to complete phase 1 by the end of fall term, but because the wheels move a little slower than always anticipated, I think they're now hoping that it'll be completed in this term, and I'll show you what the timeline looks like in a minute. So moving on, here are some examples of the parameters that the work groups were working on. I mentioned a couple of them. I'm just going to let you read them, but those are the sorts of things that will be in the recommendations. By the way, once the recommendations get approved, all of this is going to go to the individual colleges to work on, and they have to, map out all of the outcomes, from DevEd, to match up the DevEd Co-Req portion with the 4-credit portion, so forth. We learned that they had not been working on this, but Matt informs us that the steering committee is starting to do it. So I'll let him talk about the wraparound supports in a minute or two. What I do want to talk about for a moment is what we heard regarding professional development for the faculty members who for the first time are going to be working with the population that was formerly in the DevEd courses, or probably working with them for the first time. And then we want to talk about placement, because every one of these meetings, the affinity group members always talk about, right, the anticipation of those who are really underprepared or maybe only working at the 4th grade math level. How is it, one, if they do self-placement or they get placed in these courses and they just simply can't succeed? So let me talk about that. So why had we not heard about placement all along when we were talking to Anthony in the last year or two? And what he told us this time, we imagine that he wasn't able to share with it, and now he was able to do so, is that in 2023, Minnesota's legislature called for the review of Minn State's course placement practices. However, he said the scope actually became quite broad, in that they were looking at things like advising in English language learning, admission practices, and so forth. And what they did is they pulled together a cross-educational advisory group, and then also hired a consulting firm to do the study of the practices. And the cross-educational group had folks like MDE, advocacy groups, Latino Lead, and a handful of other groups as well. But the consultants did drive the process. The review recently finished, and Anthony said there might be some impact on this Co-Req planning and implementation. However, if you look at the last bullet on this slide, the office will remain committed to moving ahead and not stopping anything. They just simply don't know what the impact might be at this time, so let's move ahead as if. He did not provide any information about what's contained in the report, so we don't know that yet, and we don't know if it'll become public anytime soon. So clearly we don't know what they're recommending about placement strategies in the future or how to deal with those students that we have the most concern about. Questions he said that they have to ask, or I'm sorry, not that they have to ask, questions in front of them right now is, what is it that Minn State will present to the legislature? What's in it? What will the legislature do with it, of course, and will it become a bill or not? So that's the placement issue. By the way, if anyone has any questions, what we're doing, we're asking you to, mark them down yourself, or you can put them into chat now. But wait until I finish. I don't have much more left. And then we'll ask Matt to join us. And if there's anyone else on the steering committee here or the faculty groups, we'll ask you to join in for a little bit. And then we'll take the questions from participants here. So this is the timeline, and I've been showing this the whole last year to 2 years. It is public on their website. And clearly phase 1, as I mentioned, is not yet finished. So the update is they're striving for spring 2025 to complete, which we're in now. And then clearly phase 2, which was slated to begin this semester, will be delayed until phase 1 is complete. I don't know if any phases will begin over the summer. Having worked for Minnesota State for so long, usually things are not implemented in the summer. Although it's administrative. So Matt, you can let us know about that. Okay, well, what about outcomes data? We asked Anthony about this. Has anything been collected? We know that some colleges were offering Co-Req courses for a number of years already, or at least 1 to 2 years, and some began in the fall. And we're going to hear from 2 such campuses in a few minutes, but they're the ones in partnership with ABE. So here's what Anthony said. He said there's some outcome data, certainly not a robust set yet. It's difficult to isolate Co-Req from other courses. And he said the data availability, of course, is greater in math due to the math pathways work that had been done for at least a few years. And they are documenting in those math courses what he's calling big success jumps at the end of the second year. And what they're using is college level course completion after 4 semesters. The early results, he says, are that Minnesota State has seen an increase in the overall number of successful students. So that's their early data. And then we asked them about the faculty development piece. How is it that these faculty members at the colleges who are, I hope you're not hearing my cell phone. I'm sorry, it's sitting far away, but okay, good. I have to go grab it and turn it off at some point here. We asked them, how are the faculty members getting in, if you will, not indoctrinated, but supported for these Co-Req courses. And what he said is, and it was new to us, there is actually a new course being offered this very semester by what's called the Network for Educational Development. And that is the professional development arm of the unit I used to work in, which is called Educational Innovations. It might have a new name now. So I know the people who are running the program, but they have contracted out the course to 2 Math Pathways faculty members, and we will be in touch with them because I'm really I think Russ and I are interested in how are they approaching the course? What are they hearing from the faculty who are enrolled in this class? And maybe we'll get them to talk at the next Affinity group meeting. At least that would be my hope for 10 minutes or so. So what we do know is the course is full at the moment. It's fully enrolled. I don't believe they're accepting any new members, but Matt, I think yesterday at the meeting, someone asked and you said you might check on that, so you can let us know if anything's been done there. We do not know if they're going to offer it again. At this point, there's nothing on the NED newsletter. And if any of you are interested, I believe you can sign up for it. I don't know if you can sign up for it if you're not in the Minn State system. If anyone's interested, I can check that out for you. All you'd have to do is Google Minn State NED, or Network for Educational Development. So that's kind of the end of that. I haven't checked the chat to see if there are any questions, but first I'll call on Matt. And before you start, Matt, is there anyone else here who is on the steering committee or on any of the faculty groups?
I think I saw Anna Davis. She's on the Dev Ed Steering Committee as a MSCF rep.
Who is it that you said?
Anna Davis.
Well, that was yesterday. Is she here today?
Yep, I think she's back on.
Okay,
today.
I'm sorry.
am.
Yeah.
Saw
Yeah,
her
when
in
I'm
the chat.
sharing, I don't, to save real estate on my screen, I don't pull up. Okay, well, both of you, we welcome you to add anything to this conversation. We have a few minutes,
Yes,
So go for
and Leslie Rhonda
Yeah.
Italiano also has raised her hand. I'm assuming you're raising your hand, Rhonda, because you are on a committee or on a faculty group? No?
I was with the reading faculty group, but I actually had a question. So
Okay,
I suppose a yes and a yes.
all right. So if you could hold your question, we're gonna hear from a
Yeah.
couple of our people, and then yes, we'll call on you, Rhonda. That'd be great. Okay, so Matt.
Sure,
Is it
I
something-
was waiting to see if I was up. So yeah,
Yeah.
I can add a little bit, I guess. I think Leslie covered it pretty well. That the Dev Ed, we call it our Dev Ed Steering Committee. They've been working on these co-requisite parameter document that has now been moved out of that committee onto what we call our Academic Affairs Council, which is a representative group, kind of our what we call shared governance, that covers all of Minn State. It's got representatives from both of the teaching faculty groups, 4-year and 2-year faculty, as well as professional staff that are from the MAPE bargaining unit, all the way down to administrators, and so really wide net. And that's kind of the last step before it goes to the senior leadership at Minnesota State. The document is kind of an odd thing for us to consider because it's not sort of a direct sort of do this. It's a set of recommendations and requirements, and exactly how it would be implemented, I don't think we're quite clear yet. I won't go into all the arcane ways that we behave in Minnesota State, but it kind of needs to find a home in order to actually become something. But we generally do at the Academic Affairs Council a first and a second reading. So it had its first reading this past Monday. So now it's out for everyone on that group to take it back to their constituent groups, find out what people think. And as Leslie said, it could be that we just vote on it at the next meeting. It could be that that group could modify it. Generally, they tend to, rather than modifying things, as she noted, send it back to the committee that sent it to them and say, hey, would you think about this, this, and this, and maybe come up with a different way to do it. And that does slow things down a little bit, but the intent would be to have that done here by the middle of this term. So that's kind of where we are in the process. The Developmental Ed Steering Committee, that document that we have produced is not comprehensive. One of the things that we are looking carefully at is what to do in our technical programs, welding, automotive, culinary, audio production, all kinds of these programs that we have at different technical colleges around the state, because many of those students never are required to take a college level reading, writing, or English course or a math course, but they do have needs in those areas for their programs. And so exactly how this model of co-requisite fits or doesn't fit them, and how we would handle the work that's needed to support those students. So that's one of the things that's out there. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the other subgroup is working on or will be working on these wraparound supports. And that's where I think probably the ABE will be a major component in that. And so, you know, as we're thinking about what to forward as recommendations, requirements, expectations, I want to inform myself as best I can. I knew a little bit about ABE previously, but definitely was not an expert or even considered myself functionally knowledgeable. So this, having been to a few of these meetings, is really helped. So, but that's where we are. Hopefully the technical stuff and the wraparound support stuff will be done well before the end of this term. We still have some other open questions that the group will have to address. So it's a little bit of a incremental process, but the big thing was to start with the definition of co-requisites and all those other items that Leslie had on that slide there that you saw. So that's where we're at, and appreciate having a little time to talk about what we're doing.
Thank you, Matt. And I see that Ashley, is it pronounced Preem?
Yes, Ashley
All
Preem.
right. Hi, Ashley. Did you want to comment a bit about your math work group?
I can make some comments. I don't know exactly what was said. I joined the meeting today a little late, so I apologize for that. But I was on the math work group as one of the representatives from each of the colleges to help discuss and formulate the guidelines that went forth to the other committees for review. So we collaborated. We met fairly frequently this last fall and at the end of last school year to go through draft, find evidence, and try and get a diverse number of opinions from various colleges across the state. So we haven't resumed any work yet this semester, but we did finalize everything and send it off at the end of last semester.
Thank you, Ashley.
Yes.
And let's see, Rhonda, you had an earlier question.
I do have a couple of questions. Yes, thank you. I teach reading on 2 campuses. I teach at North Hennepin and also at Anoka Ramsey. And I participated in the reading section of the working group that we pulled together the recommendations for the system office. So one of the questions that we were left with at the end of our work was what the system office is going to do with students who don't test into that highest level of reading. So they were talking about a floor. Is that part of the conversation with placement, or do you know if anyone has that on their radar at the system office level?
I assume that's a question for me, but
Yes.
Yes.
yeah. So yeah, that's still one of the open questions. And again, the recommendations as they went forward, I don't think I'm giving anything away, talked about essentially leaving it up to each institution about whether there would be a floor or not. But if there was going to be a floor, they wanted it to be consistent across institutions. Because the course placement work is on hold at the moment, it kind of leaves us in a spot where we can't really work on that yet. So we will be pushing the system office to reconvene, say the assessment for course placement committee, to actually deal with that exact question, because that really is in their wheelhouse about dealing with how placement would work into various things. So definitely a known question, something we know we have to deal with, but aren't quite ready to go there, kind of waiting on that OHE report as well.
Okay, thank you, Matt. So also, I see that we're moving full speed ahead in a co-requisite direction for students or campuses who have multiple levels of developmental reading. Will they be required to have co-requisites for all of those levels?
I would say that it's still an open question. The committee was charged with developing recommendations, requirements for what to do when you're doing co-requisites. The open question is, how will this move forward? I can tell you there's some disagreement amongst the various groups, so I won't go into all of that, but it is one of the questions that we feel needs to be addressed, is exactly what are the expectations or what are the requirements going to be around that. And part of that is knowing what we're going to do on the technical side, whether there might be standalone courses there at a below college level. And below that floor, what happens there? So we have the main core, but we still have a lot to build around the outside.
Okay, just wanted to make sure those were on the list. Thank you.
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to dive right now into a presentation. And then we'll go right into the second presentation, and then we will open it up for questions and comments from the group, because we want to make sure you have the chance to report anything that's going on in your neck of the woods. So with that, please welcome Katie Ferrell. And Katie is going to tell us a little bit about her work with Riverland Community College. Take it away, Katie.
Hello, I'm Katie Ferrell. I am new to this position. I'm an adult basic ed math teacher. I just started in the fall, and prior to that, I taught middle school math. And so I'm still I have an understanding of the adult ed world and the Minn State Community College rules too, but I'm not an expert. I currently help with the stats, fundamentals of statistics, and college algebra courses. They are cohorted, so students are in a Co-Req class, and then the same students attend the actual math class, whether it be the algebra or stats. I did that in the fall, and I'm doing it in the spring. In the fall, I also helped with our tech math class. Those were carpentry students in the carpentry program at Riverland, and they had math class Monday, Wednesday, but Tuesday, Thursday was a math lab that I ran, and it was just part of their schedule. They showed up like it was their math class in their schedule, and so I was able to pre-teach concepts or reteach concepts because I might teach a little different than the college instructor. And it was pretty cool. Some of the guys really, I think, appreciated that they had that time built into their schedule to work on assignments, to get help in a different way. As far as the stats and algebra classes go, for Co-Req, we do some pre-teaching or reviewing of skills needed for the actual classes content. Sometimes we use it just as extra time to support what's being discussed in the math classes. I run the Zoom because it is bimodal. Both classes are bimodal, so students can attend via Zoom or in person. And so I run the Zoom and monitor the chat. I'm also kind of like the classroom mom, kind of. I'm checking on students, making sure they are actually paying attention if they're on Zoom. I'm following up with them if they're absent. I'm checking in on them if they have a lot of missing work or they haven't been logging in to the online textbook or on Brightspace. I've found that especially with our younger adult students, the ones fresh out of high school, they need more help learning how to be a college student than with the actual math content. So I help a lot with that, but I'm also able to help with the math. I chime in if I have a tip or trick that I think might help the students, or if I see that some students are really kind of not understanding what the instructor is saying, I might ask a question to lead him in a different direction, or to explain it a different way. Let's see, am I hitting all my talking points? We do have small class sizes, and again, I think it comes to that placement question, which we all have that question. We are finding that a lot of students could benefit from the Co-Req, but maybe they're not being placed into the Co-Req. Right now, it's kind of advisor recommended, whereas I know this has been discussed in the math discussions of really should everybody be in Co-Req and then prove to prove that they don't need to be in it. So that's just another conversation, but we do have small class sizes, whereas I think a lot more students would benefit from the Co-Req model. I do not have the tech math class this spring. I'm just in the algebra and stats, so I'm able to offer a foundations of math course through our Austin Adult Learning program that GED students are taking, but also Riverland students are taking that did not have a high enough test score or grade point average to be placed into that Co-Req college algebra class. They might just need a little extra support before they can go into that. So I have 5 Riverland students right now in an adult ed class, not in a Riverland class.
So they're referred, Katie, and it is a choice that they make to participate or not.
Yes.
Yes,
Yep.
got it.
And I have assignments, I have quizzes, and if they pass that class, then working with advisors, then we can say that they can be placed into that college algebra class then with Co-Req the next semester.
Wonderful, great. Issues, challenges, that you've experienced?
I would say just as being new to the position, I really took a back seat in the fall just because I didn't know my place. But now that I have a, better working relationship and personal relationship with the instructors, I really do feel more comfortable jumping in when I feel necessary. And obviously, any job, any teaching position, you really learn boots on the ground. And so I'm implementing a lot of different things this semester as far as putting extra resources on Brightspace or saying, because I hold office hours as well, I'm gonna start having test reviews. So students aren't required to come to my office hours, but if I tell them this date, this is what I'm gonna be talking about, if you want to show up, then that just is offering them that extra help where they might not know, oh, I need to go ask Katie about this, but if they know, oh, Katie's talking about this, and I know that I struggle with that, they might be more interested in coming and hanging out with me a little more.
Yeah, great idea. So Katie, can you give us a little bit of a sense of the completion data? How well students sort of proceeded, and did they get to a successful completion?
Yes. Excuse me, I'm recovering from a cold. I would say that most of the students did well. Again, I'm learning just about the type of students that we get. A lot of students, they come and they don't think that they need to show up to class, or they don't think that they have to do the assignments, but there's obviously a correlation. If you don't do the work, you're not going to pass. So I don't have exact data. I was going to crunch those numbers. I would say for tech math, because it was part of their schedule where they went to class, they came to me for math lab to do their assignments, everyone passed. Everyone passed with flying colors, and they were shocked. They were so excited. They said, I've never done this well in math before in my life.
Oh,
So that was really fun.
Right.
But then for stats and in stats last semester, we had a few students that they started out strong and then really just didn't put in the work. So
Yeah.
obviously they did not succeed in passing the class.
Right.
But with any class, the students are going to get out of it what they put into it.
So having gone through that, what kind of changes do you anticipate now that you have this greater comfort level with the instructor and the instructor with you? Tell us about what you think would make sense for improvements.
I think that how do I want to say this? I think that the idea of really encouraging students to come to my office hours, whether it be for a test review or a reteaching of a certain subject, but really communicating more with the students and being more of a mom or I used to teach middle school, being more of a middle school teacher, of being on them, saying like, are you getting your work done? Because I did find that really it was the student skills versus the math skills that students struggled with. So I really want to be almost like like a advisor, someone there making sure they're doing their
Yeah, guide,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, that's
Before,
fantastic.
in the fall,
Anything
I
else?
was, oh,
Yeah,
sorry. In the fall, I was just like, oh, these are college students. They know what they're here for. They're But then, oh, no, a lot of them are very similar to middle school
Right,
students.
yes, yeah, that's a little eye-opening, isn't it?
The learning curve, yeah.
Right, right. Okay, so Katie, thank you so much for your comments. I know you need to leave by 11.
Yep, I
Okay,
have class.
so we're gonna get Patrick in here and then we'll get some questions back to you as well as Patrick. So thank you, Katie. Hang out and get better. All right. So Patrick, come on down.
Coming on down. I'm the next contestant. Russ, you've worked with me enough. When I start to die, pull me back in.
I will. Count on it.
I'll try to work my way down the list of questions that you had provided to us. The description of our program. So I'm Patrick Hobot. I'm a supervisor with Metro North ABE. I have partnerships with Anoka Ramsey Community College and Anoka Technical College, with the ABE collaborating in math classes at those programs. We've been doing this since spring of 2017. So we put a lot of time in. Of course, the Co-Reqs, ARCC had got out in front of that pretty well, and so started those even last year. So we have a couple of semesters of experience in it. The classes that we're currently working with at Anoka Ramsey is a Math 80, which is an ABE-led class, a Math 240, which is a true Dev Ed, not a college gateway, but our Co-Reqs are with a Math for Liberal Arts, an Intro to Statistics and College Algebra. Over at ATC, we are doing basic math in partnership and dosage calculations in partnership with ATC. The class sizes vary, but in the Co-Reqs at ARCC, they are capped at 15 students. Completion and success rates, so I'm going to hammer through. For Math to Liberal Arts and Intro to Stats, we're in that 40 to 50% success rate, with students who are passing that class with a grade higher than a D. But college algebra ended up with about a 25% pass rate in those classes. The successes that we're seeing in the Co-Reqs are really still more about the mindset for the students than it is in their academic achievement. We're changing that mentality that I'm no good at math or I can't do this, really starting to embrace some of their numeracy skills. And my staff has been very frustrated, obviously, with the success and pass rate. And so when we talk about that, we go back to, as they designed these courses, the Dana Center, who was advising in the Co-Req development, at least at ARCC, when they were working with the grant, had a target of a 30% success rate. So, I mean, we're hitting the targets that were set by the consultant who came in to help develop the courses. And I guess that's a win. I say with my cynical lens on it. Challenges, infinite. It changes every time, and so does then our delivery model. In the Co-Req model, challenges we immediately ran into is the ABE funding model. When they reduced the class sizes to 15, that then made it really challenging for us to be able to hit the contact hours that we need to be able to sustain our program. Especially since a number of the instructors in the Co-Req who were coming in were not from the previous DevEd work, and were college faculty. And So some of the things that we had adopted with learning platforms, from digital learning platforms and things that we were able to do to supplement the contact hours that help fund us weren't a part of their design. So that has been an additional challenge. So just for perspective, I'm down in my contact hours about 28% this year compared to last year, which is not obviously not a sustainable model. The change in the collaborators, the college faculty who were coming in who weren't DevEd oriented has been a challenge. We've run into, and it's not a criticism of them. Consummate professionals, super dedicated, walking into this program to give it the old college try, so to speak. But mindsets and understanding of the students are a different challenge in that case. And so we ran back into faculty similar mindsets to what we saw back in 2017, which was treat them like college students. And the whole point of them being in Co-Req and needing supports going into college entry-level courses or gateway courses is that they aren't college-ready students. And that's why this new model is supposed to exist. And so doing things like reducing your classes to 15 doesn't have any effect unless you change your teaching model to accommodate the needs of the student. A smaller class in and of itself isn't a solution. And so some of these conversations are difficult. We run into some challenges between where we're coming from with ABE and adult learning and our background and what would say are best practices for math learners versus academic freedom for college faculty and instructors. There is a clash with some, not all, obviously, of staff and faculty in that realm. We have an interesting phenomenon of a few instructors dropping now out of the Co-Req because it's too much work, is what I was told. That's a direct quote. And it comes down to placement. So without meaning to offend Matt and Anthony's work in that piece, I do not understand how placement isn't the first step. If you're designing courses, or we're designing courses without knowing who our student and our target is, and that's the cart before the horse. It's creating an impossibility because we are seeing the exact same academic footprint of our students as wholes, as classes in Math 80, which is a very basic math, in 240, which is still pre-college, Intro to Stats, Liberal Arts, and College Algebra, where we are seeing math skills from anywhere from 2nd grade to 9th grade. Nothing. We have one student take an A on the TABE, so people from ABE world, you understand kind of where the TABE is. That's kind of mind-boggling to me when we're talking about college algebra. So lots of challenges that still need to be worked out. The great news is that everybody's committed to trying to overcome those challenges and to still solve this with the student front and center. Everyone we're working with. Lessons learned. Stability is a key. The conversation now at ARCC is that the Co-Req models are likely to, in the future, be essentially adjunct professor positions. So we will see rapid and constant turnover semester to semester in that staff. And so the stability and the constant will be that ABE instructor who's embedded in those classes. And so we're going to rely on creating a system that we can plug the quarterback into. And vernacular I'm more familiar with, in that this is how the course works, because this is how we address student needs. And when you come in, there has to be an adaptation to that. And I think that if ABE is the constant and we keep changing faculty in there, that gives them a framework to work within in working with developmental ed students. So
quick question, Patrick.
fire away, Russ.
Yeah, the faculty and the staff administration at the colleges are in alignment with that, the notion of that framework that you spoke of?
Yeah.
That's great.
No.
Oh.
So I'm really
Still working
encouraged
on
to
selling it. Yeah.
Well, I'm really encouraged to see that there is the class and I think it was Leslie or Matt, one of their updates, in that there are some courses that are being offered for college faculty who would want to pursue this Co-Req model, because it really does require changes in some of the traditional models of instruction. That these are not independent learners that we are working with at this point, and we're trying to develop them into that so they can be successful in a more traditional college delivery methodology. And so as Katie talked about, a lot of her work is the social work of math, helping these students develop these survival skills in a college environment, because they're really not. And post-COVID, it's even more dramatic.
Right.
As to what my expectations for students are. There's a whole K-12 thing with 50% as an equity move, that they cannot even turn in an assignment and still get 50%. That doesn't fly in the college world, and shouldn't. But there's a lot of things that we are trying to mesh these two worlds, and they're not speaking the same language in a lot of ways. So it's fun to be there.
So
let's see.
Patrick, what I'm going to do
Continuing.
is we'll kind of
Cut
stop
me.
at this point, and then
That's perfectly fine, because I think I hit all of the key
open it up
pieces.
to our audience. Questions for Patrick or comments, the same for Katie. Anything from our audience?
I might just comment to Patrick. We're seeing the same thing. So we take the CASAS test. All of our Co-Req students take the pre-test at the beginning of the semester, and we've had students with kindergarten level skills.
Oh boy.
They take the test seriously, but we are finding that there's large gaps. And again, I agree with a lot of what you just said, but we try to do what we can.
Yeah.
Right. And I think everybody's trying to do what they can. The piece that I ran into, particularly in the fall semester, was an exhaustion in my own staff, as well as a few of the college faculty who I get to have conversations with, and understandably so. The conversation that we're having is, particularly in a college algebra Co-Req, this lift is impossible. No offense to anybody trying to do it. I encourage and I appreciate the effort, but it's a Sisyphean task. You're going to find that boulder at the bottom of the hill every day. You can't close the gap between second grade math and college algebra in 16 weeks with a couple of meetings a week. You just can't do it. And that level of defeat for people who are passionate about seeing students succeed is emotionally wearing. And my staff was exhausted by the inevitable failure of 75% of the students who are in that class. And it goes against all of the studies that say Co-Reqs are successful. Co-Reqs are successful when that band is narrow and that remediation is a closable gap. Yes, you can do it, but you can't just have an open gate. I see Matt's response, and I appreciate that, that you're not taking offense to that. I just have a really, really hard time with this placement piece. It is our #1 challenge. We are putting students in a guaranteed fail situation, and most of these students are already bringing math traumas with them, and we're compounding it and adding to it. And instead of providing an encouraging pathway for success, we're putting the final nail in the coffin, particularly with that new, the under 80, I can't remember the name, of STAR or something, the funding where families under 80 grand are able to go to the colleges, the 2-year colleges anyway, free. But they're taking a Co-Req that's a 6-credit course. And if they fail, North Star Promise, thank you. And if they fail that course, they blow their funding. And so the high stakes that we are playing with these students' futures is terrifying for us when we see, I mean, making the decision to counsel students to withdraw or drop is a very difficult and heart-wrenching place to be. And we are finding our faculty and our ABE instructors having to have that conversation with the majority of the students they are encountering. And it's a placement issue.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Patrick. Is it Anna or Anna?
I've heard both. But you can call me Anna.
Okay, Anna. Sounds good. Go ahead with your question.
Well, first of all, wow, really just compelling, moving, but from both of you actually, Katie but Patrick, that the data is really interesting, and wondering where, who's collecting that? Is it you and ABE, and then where is it going? Are you sharing that with the college? And my request to you would be to maybe reach out to Matt or me, because I'm on that steering committee as well. And so that we can help it be part of the conversation, because I think, first of all, without data, we can have stories, but without data, no one really listens. But I think that you're bringing up a concern. I don't know of any faculty, maybe there are some here, but I don't know of any faculty who really support not having a placement. And it's really interesting to hear what you're finding. It's not surprising to me, I mean, it's kind of what we all suspected might happen.
Yeah, not a single one of our faculty is saying that they're okay with open placement either.
Yeah.
I mean, that everybody's taking that same one on the chin. So, and I understand that challenge has been very hard. And at ARC in particular, we lost Jamie Lopez, who's this remarkable asset in student success and was part of the placement team. And then we also lost Becky Christiniak, who was our STEM dean at ARCC, and who had come out of St. Cloud teacher development, and so she was a heavy advocate for what KTEL was bringing. So we're curious what the future is going to bring with new people in those places. We had stability for like 7 years, which was kind of remarkable in and of itself, I think, in that piece. So there are additional challenges, and I appreciate to hear that. I would agree, ARCC and ATC staff are not saying that open placement is good.
All right. Thank you for that. Quick question or request to the group. If you have anything that you want to ask of Katie, she has a couple minutes left with us. Now is your time to do that. Otherwise, we will just open this up more broadly beyond questions for our two presenters, which, by the way, let's thank them for their wonderful, excellent presentations. We appreciate that. And have other people comment too about what's going on in your neck of the woods. So Marty, your hand is up. Take it away.
Yeah, Marty Schofield. I teach at a correctional facility in Lino Lakes. And we have students going through our program, either trying to get their high school equivalency diploma through either the GED or through HiSET, or going through more of a high school recovery credit system and getting their diploma that way. And I was just wondering if there's been any data collected yet on as far as which type of student, whether they finished with a high school diploma or with a GED, has been more successful yet in making that transition to college. And also the second question I have, I think is somewhat related to it, is would a GED be considered one placement tool for any of the colleges? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Marty. Who'd like to leap at that one? Katie, anything to add or contribute before you head out?
Again, I'm new in this position, so I haven't looked at the data. I would say just from personal experience right now, in college algebra, I have a student who just got their GED, and she is struggling because we're already, for those of you familiar with math, we're already simplifying rational expressions. Well, if she doesn't know her exponent rules or how to add, subtract, multiply, divide fractions, she's going to struggle. And so I don't know if that's just this particular student, or I have another student in my foundations class who he just got his GED and he's choosing to take the foundations class before going into, well, he needs it to go into a college algebra co-req. And so I think that there's so much you can study and attempt to take that GED class, GED test. Say, 75% of the material test or whatever you need to pass, and then you pass. But that last 25-30% that you have no idea or struggled with, like Patrick said, when you go into the college algebra course and you're expected to know these concepts, but you don't, you get lost. So that's just, again, I don't look at the data, but just living it right now, that's what I'm seeing.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you again for your presentation.
This is
Appreciate
going to
it.
be recorded, right? So I can watch
This is
later. Okay.
exactly. And Matt, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go into all the work we did around placement, but it certainly identifies it. It essentially was much more of a move away from a test. AccuPlacer was the one that was identified by our board as the one we were going to use, to using other measures. I wish it had been more of a true multiple measures, but it was more multiple single measures, which really relied more on high school GPA or scores from other things that students might be doing. GED was mixed in there. Exactly how it was used, I just don't recall. But it certainly was accounted for. And then of course, sort of one of the last options was a guided self-placement. But I think one of the things that I was really excited about there was it was meant to be not self-guided placement, which I think too many of our things are right now. The student just answers some questions for themselves and decides. The idea is they get to place themselves with guidance from someone at the college. In other words, we do have to have a conversation with that student or provide some review there. That's, I think, different. Self-guided versus guided self is that. So I can try to find out exactly what the GED recommendations was, but who knows what's going to happen with that proposal that we passed a year ago.
Sounds great. I know that we're going to hear from Jen. You have a question. I know that C, you had your hand up earlier. And Rosemary, please comment. So hold on if you will.
Quick comment on the GED. There's a ton of research that people who get their GED actually succeed better in college than those who graduate from some high schools. So the GED is a pretty good measure, and I suspect that when an individual student is having problems with math, that problem might be a math disability in there. And that again presents a whole raft of problems. But there is a lot of research that the GED is a very good measure of academic ability, and even more so than a high school diploma sometimes.
Thank you for that, Rosemary. Thank you. All right, Jen, thank you for your patience. Your comment, question?
Two things. Just one, I would piggyback on what the comment on the GED. I think when it was first developed, in order to pass it, a student has to minimally do as well as the top, I want to say 40th percentile of high school graduates. That's how it's measured. So definitely a good predictor. And then I think that part of that tension that we're all talking about around placement, I remember when I was with Minnesota State being part of listening to the research behind the math co-reqs, and there was a message at that time to try to think about not how to restrict co-reqs, but how to make it available for as many students as possible. In practice, it sounds like what folks are seeing is that there's an obvious limit, right? That there's a certain range, and like Patrick was saying, that the more specific the range, the more you can do that backward planning to target and actually serve the students within a reasonable time frame. And so I'm glad that this group exists because I think that part of the solution to that problem of what can colleges do with learners who don't test high enough to place into a co-req, which is the lowest option available, is more robust partnerships with adult education. Where it's not just a referral to a program that doesn't have a relationship, since learners are so unlikely to go to adult education if the onus is on them only. The more robust we can make those partnerships, I think that can also help address that challenge.
Yes, thank you so much, Jen, for your comments. Let's see, we have C. Are you still with us, C? Or did you have to go? Oh, yes, I see you, C.
I was just clapping before. I didn't have my hand raised.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay, sounds great. All right, so any other quick sharing from other campuses regarding Co-Req? This would be a time to update the group. Whether you're involved in one, you're in the planning stages, or you're just simply waiting. You're waiting for some of the dust to settle. Let us know what's happening.
Can I jump in just for?
Yes, of course, Lisa. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I am working with the college algebra class at Dakota County Technical College. And it's still early in the semester this semester, but a change from the fall. In the fall, they didn't require, or it was the students could opt in if they wanted to into that Co-Req part of the class, where this semester it was more of a, if you have a good reason to opt out, you have that opportunity. So just having the majority of the class as part of that, I'm really excited this semester to see what a change that will make, just to see them.
Higher motivation levels, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
Can I ask a question on that? How did they enroll them in that? I mean, was it just automatic that they were in? I mean, the students voluntarily enrolled themselves in it?
I think, I'm not sure, so I can't say positive, but I just was, from what I was told, was the last semester they could voluntarily if they wanted to, where this time I think it was, from what my impression from hearing from students and things, it was more of a, this is part of the class, and students then had the opportunity, if they had a good reason, they needed to get approval to opt out of it, rather than just.
No, I understand what it means to opt out. The question is how did they get in there to begin with? Because we're hearing that enrollments are low because students are just not enrolling in those classes.
Oh, yeah, I don't know how.
Okay, if their advisors said this is just part of the program, this is the first course you have to take, and then they just went in. Maybe that's how it went.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't want to say for sure.
I don't want to say for sure either, but I thought it was, if you take the college algebra, you also had to take the Co-Req?
For everyone?
Yeah, or what percentage of people are doing it, Lisa?
I think there's only one student out of the class that's not taking that extra part. So I would imagine it was, I don't know that you could go so strong as to say it's absolutely required, because he was able to not do it. And then we also have 2 students who are not in the regular class that I'm working with, but they're doing an online college algebra class, and they chose to come to the Co-Req part of it. So they're in person for that extra like math lab, even though they're in an online college algebra class separately. So it must have been available, even that students could say, oh, I do need the extra help. It wasn't required definitely for the online students otherwise. I mean, obviously they're online and we don't offer the Co-Req part online. So, but for the ones in the in-person class, yeah, like Eric, like you're saying, I think it was more of this is part of the class. So you need to sign up for this unless they had some extenuating thing where they could get permission not to.
Fabulous. Well, we're nearing the end of this part. I think we do have a couple more minutes. If there's anyone else that would
And
like
2
to
minutes
share kind of
left.
where they're at, it would be great. I see Greg, my friend from Metro State or formerly Metro State is in the room. Greg, who's with St. Paul College. Anything you'd like to update the group on?
Thanks, Russ. Really just here to hear what other folks are doing. We've got some work on the math side, which is part of our STEM division, not my division, which is liberal and fine arts. We've done some initial curricular work to move some 2-course support shells through on the reading side. English is taking a little more time to develop theirs, but I just want to associate myself with all the comments I've heard on today's call about the issue of the floor being really critical, both to how we design this and whether or not it'll even work. And we're just seeing an increasing, a widening range of skill level and readiness, as one of the previous speakers addressed, at all levels. And there's a cost and consequence for faculty in that. And I think it sometimes goes unnamed. I saw some coverage earlier this week about 4th and 8th grade test scores nationally, and that the lowest socioeconomic quartiles continue to decline. They haven't even flattened out yet, much less rebound. And so we're going to be dealing with, I think, even an increasing expansion of readiness levels for maybe the next 10 years or so. So that floor issue for me is critical, and it seems like the one that we're least inclined to come to a resolution on, because there are such strong divergent perspectives on it. So be curious to stay in touch with that, and I appreciate having this group, which provides an opportunity for me to do just that. Thanks, Russ.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Okay, well, folks, thank you for this conversation. Leslie will take us through the wrap-up portion of our agenda today. Take care.
Okay. Give me 1 second here. There we go. Sure. Oh, very robust conversation. And that's wonderful to hear from everyone. Yeah, we want to wrap up by just always providing everyone with our list of resources. And Carly, if you can put these in the chat, that would be great. Maybe she already has. Or no, yep, there, I see. Okay, so for anyone who's new, we just want to point out that the partnership work is not new between adult basic education and the Minn State colleges. We have 4 or 5 years of history of putting together resources in this Atlas website. I'm just going to take you there for a minute. Can you see this? I've got 2 screens up, but can you see this or no? The college AB.
Yes.
Partnership.
Yes.
Okay.
It's at the bottom right part. Yes.
No, I mean, can you actually see the website? It's not.
Yes.
No. Okay, give me a second. Here, I bet you can see it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
There it is. Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, we've put together a number of resources, including a toolkit about how the partnerships work. And many of the issues are pretty much the same, even though Co-Req is new and the design of the course is new. And maybe the issues are a little more emphasized, quite a bit more emphasized. This toolkit piece would be particularly useful for you to glance at if you wanted to. And contained in there are 5 stories of how the partnerships worked. We already documented it. We put out a request to the Affinity group and other people throughout the state, and we had over 20 people participating and helping to write sections of this. So you may want to take a look at that. And then let me get back to, give me a second. I'm getting there. Okay, and then we also have a private space just for the Affinity group. And if you're new and you're not in that space, this is a tiny URL. Otherwise, it's a massive URL. It's where we put all of our historical data, information, our agendas. We put our slide decks and our videos. Atlas will also put the recordings of this up on their website, but we also duplicate it here because it's kind of a one-stop shop just for the Affinity group. So if you haven't taken a look at that, please do. And if you're not in that site, it is closed, so you have to email me. You can let me know in chat right now if you want me to add you to that site. Or you can just email me. And I think with that, Russ, I mean, we want to thank everybody for being here today and for contributing to the ongoing conversations and sharing. Russ, anything else you'd like to add in closing out?
No, I was just super impressed with the conversation and really the candor, right? And it's really important that we are that way with each other because it's real students' lives that are at stake here and their future. So well, I'll join Leslie in thanking you for your attendance. The next meeting is April 3rd or 4th. We will go back to Thursdays at 2 o'clock. The Friday, the 4th at 10 a.m. This one stayed the same, but we had to shift yesterday's just a little bit, but we'll be back on that schedule. And in the meantime, keep up your wonderful work. We thank you and have yourself a great weekend.